That's a really good question. I think firstly, like going into it, I knew it was going to be emotional for me. I
Right.
knew I was probably going to cry at some point. I cried multiple times in the film. So I think the first thing that was important to me was creating a team around me, like production and on set of who would I want around me who I could trust to hold space on set because it's not a
Right.
comfortable thing, even as a crew, to watch someone cry. It's very like against you're like, okay, just sit, don't say anything. Like that can be
Right.
really uncomfortable for people. So I wanted to make sure my crew, a lot of them I met in film school, they're friends and
That's
um,
awesome.
they were very good at holding space and making me feel comfortable to go to these vulnerable places. So I think firstly, my biggest advice is surround yourself with a good crew to make the film.
Good afternoon, filmmaker Jenny Lee-Gilmore of Little Miss Sleepy and other films. Jenny, how are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing really good. I'm excited to talk to you.
I'm so excited to talk with you. When I saw the list of the 20th annual GEMFest, Little
Mhm.
Miss Sleepy stood out to me as just being raw, original. And then I got to see it, and it was definitely confirmed. Was that sort of the reaction they had at GEMFest for the film? Was like, wow, I can't believe she's telling me this deeply personal story on film and I'm getting to watch it?
It was my first time watching the film with an audience at GEMFest.
Wow.
So I wasn't sure what the reaction was going to be. There was definitely some sniffles and crying in the audience from myself, but also other people. But a lot of people have asked me like that, what it was like to make something so personal and be on camera and direct at the same time. It's something, I didn't even really know what to expect myself going into the process. I'm not sure if it's something I'd want to do again because it was definitely challenging, but I'm very happy I did. And I'm very happy with how the film turned out and how people have been receiving it.
So, Little Miss Sleepy is the journey of being diagnosed with narcolepsy at age 21 and your participation in a scientific research study. It goes back quite a ways. How did you know you wanted to A, get involved in filmmaking and then B, tell this story? Was it something that they both go on the same similar tracks together? Is it you were like, hey, maybe film is the best medium for this?
Yeah. First, I'll start with what is narcolepsy, I think. And
Right.
it's a neurological disorder, which means your brain can't control your sleep and wake cycles. So this was something, like you said, I was diagnosed at age 21. And that was actually when I was graduating film school. So I'd gone throughout film school knowing I'd get really tired and falling asleep,
Wow.
in film studies when we'd watch these really long
Turn the dark lights
films.
off,
Yeah,
right?
I'm just like out like a light. But originally, no, I never wanted to make a film about this. I never thought I'd talk about my experiences, even with just friends. In the film, I talk about my journey of accepting my diagnosis. And I think if you asked me 5 years ago if I'd make a film like this, I would have said absolutely not. I never want to talk about these things
Wow.
to my family, to my friends, let alone on camera and for everyone to see. But I think I made my first documentary, must have been 2022. It was called Overtime. And it was a personal film about my mom and her journey of playing hockey as a Chinese Canadian woman. And she was very vulnerable on camera about her life. And I also in the film. So it set me up to, okay, this isn't as scary as I think it is to be so personal. And it's actually you make the best films, I think, when you come from that vulnerable place. So that kind of teed me up to getting into Little Miss Sleepy.
I love that so much. Is Overtime available somewhere for people to watch?
Yeah, it's currently in Canada and worldwide on tellusoriginals.com.
Okay.
And then it's also a Knowledge Network in BC if you're a BC resident. It was a very fun film.
Oh, it sounds fantastic. So it's a deeply personal film. What kind of concessions did you make of were there certain things that you were like, no, that's too much? And in as part of that answer, what could you tell somebody who's you 5 years ago, right? Saying, I'm never gonna do that. What would you advise that person about telling
Mhm.
such a personal story?
That's a really good question. I think firstly, like going into it, I knew it was going to be emotional for me. I
Right.
knew I was probably going to cry at some point. I cry multiple times in the film. So I think the first thing that was important to me was creating a team around me, both like production and on set of who would I want around me who I could trust to hold space on set because it's not a
Right.
comfortable thing, even as a crew, to watch someone cry. It's very like against you're like, okay, just sit, don't say anything. Like that can be
Right.
really uncomfortable for people. So I wanted to make sure my crew, a lot of them I met in film school, they're friends and
That's
um,
awesome.
they were very good at yeah holding space and making me feel comfortable to go to these vulnerable places. So I think firstly my biggest advice for myself is yeah, surround yourself with a good crew to make the film. I think I also going into it, I don't think I had anything off limits. I was very clear on what I wanted to say. I wrote down all the questions that I wanted to ask myself. I had my best friend sit behind the camera and ask me all the
That's awesome.
questions. So it was like I was having a conversation with her, and that really helped. Her name's Dita Sue. She's in the film as well. So I didn't have anything off limits, but I will say that there was the scene with my parents where I'm talking to them and I get emotional. We actually had wrapped that scene and we're about to take down the lights, take down the camera, and I hadn't said yet what I wanted to say, but I knew I was going to get emotional. So that director
Oh,
side of
wow.
me was like, no, you have to say what you need to say in this moment. And then me, I was like, this is going to be really hard to address this topic with them. So it was always this kind of fight of going to these emotional places. But yeah, nothing was off limits. And in terms of advice, that people are a lot. My fear was that I would be judged by my peers, by people in film, uh,
Right.
of sharing my story. And in fact, it's been the opposite, where people have been so caring. And even my boss right now, I'm working on a Disney show, and the director I'm working for watched and came to this film screening. I was nervous for him to see that because I didn't want him to see me as like lesser than do the job, but it actually did the opposite, where he's just very caring and wants to know more and how he can best show up as a boss for me. So that's been really refreshing, and I didn't think that would happen.
It's so hard, right? Because I think everybody is so used to like trying to paint this perfect picture of themselves.
Mhm.
But I think the truth is, I had an old boss that was an alcoholic and he talked to, and you wouldn't normally see a person like that in his position talk about any sort of weakness. But what I saw when he talked about it is people were able to connect with him in a way that they wouldn't be able to connect otherwise. And so I imagine it was very similar in your case. It's she has made a documentary. She's working in the industry, she's doing everything right. Like there's no issues. And then when you show that vulnerability, people respond like way more favorably than you would
Mhm.
expect. And I hope people can take that message from your film and be
Hope-
able to share more about their lives after watching Little Miss Sleepy.
Yeah, that's it's like what you said about your boss. It's like people relate, even if it's not that specific issue. Is
Right.
people usually have something they relate to and can connect with you about. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was my other question there about like how you got together the crew because I think that was so important to it because you're traveling to different places.
Mhm.
There's different locales as part of it. Was it just like you said, friends through film school? Was there any advice you had there in terms of getting a solid crew that you trust? Like, how do you have that? Is it just a trust like over years? Because I can't imagine asking like an interview question with somebody like, so, I'm going to be very vulnerable with you. Are you okay with that? How do you broach that conversation with people and know that you're getting something honest in return?
Oh, that's so true. I think the producer who produced my film, Mike Johnston, with Studio 104, I've known him since film school, so that we had the
Okay.
luxury of doing multiple projects together and knowing each other. In terms of the crew, so I had two crews. We had the Montreal crew. The
Right.
crew was three of us, basically. It was really small. It was two of my friends, and they were doing multiple jobs. So I think it's finding a crew who understand the scope of the film and what they're going to be doing. Because Dita Sue she was on camera, she was doing B cam, she was doing sound, she was like production managing, and then Kate Smith was also she was her own camera team. So it's very much like setting up the scope of what they will have to do. But a lot of the crew I didn't know, but I trusted Mike and that he would bring on a good crew.
That's awesome.
And my cinematographer I knew already, so that was really helpful. His name's Austin Kwok, and he had a really good crew. But sometimes you just you don't know until you, so it's tricky. And I usually just try to go off vibes, which is hard because you're like, but I think if you have a meeting with someone, you're like, okay, good vibes,
Right.
then it would go well. But I think it's trusting both ways, and
Yeah.
sometimes it might backfire, but in this case, I
But
got
that's life, right? Like, you can't
exactly.
live life, like, sheltered and just
Mm.
not trust anyone, and you wouldn't be able to get anywhere. Little Miss Sleepy is amazing. It won for best of one of the awards for best of
Mhm.
British Columbia. How do you see documentary film unfolding? An award-winning film, do you envision it, like, streaming somewhere? Like you mentioned, your previous film is streaming, on TELUS. Do you see it like a market for it? Like, how do you envision, like, the future of documentary filmmaking, like, over the next few years? And given your award-winning film, like, from that lens, how do you see documentary filmmaking going forward?
It's interesting in terms of documentaries. I never thought I would make documentaries. That was never my goal. But I think what I found with documentaries is people really care about real stories from real. And it's harder to, in my experience with both my docs, is distribution and festivals, is usually people aren't going to watch documentaries. They want to
Right.
go and watch
Narrative.
narrative. With that said, so many more documentaries are becoming more cinematic. Like they're not just a sit down interview. And in Little Miss Sleepy, we try
Right.
to do these nightmare recreation scenes. But it's a good question because I'm still learning about this myself. And the goal of both my films was to have it available for the public, especially with Little
Yeah.
Miss Sleepy. So it wasn't really about how many festivals it played or how many awards. It only played 2 festivals, but the goal was to get it like accessible by as many people as possible. So now it's on CBC Gem and it's on the Nature of Things
Okay.
YouTube channel.
Awesome.
But it's after that, I'm not really sure. And that's still what I'm learning. It's like, how do you keep this life going?
And Jenny, the hook on it is amazing. Like, when I first started watching it, I was like, "Wait, is this what it like? What I?" And then it's, "Oh, okay, all right." But I was hooked. I was like, "All right, this is amazing." How did
Yeah.
you come up with that hook of that start? And I won't give it away. I want people to go watch it, but you're drawn in immediately. You
Mhm.
must know, like, that was a successful way of starting the film.
Yeah, I really wanted to have something to grab people's attention. I wasn't sure what the angle would be into narcolepsy because it's boring just to start with. This is a
A doctor or something.
yeah. So I watch a lot of docs, and I always find like the first couple of minutes are super interesting of how they start this story. And there's usually a lot of mystery. And I love true crime documentaries, and they often start with this kind of mystery element. So I did want to do something like that. And then in terms of making it kind of nightmare scary, is that's a part of narcolepsy. Is one of the symptoms is sleep hallucinations and sleep paralysis. So I really wanted to try and get the audience to experience that side of it and lead with that. Yeah.
It works tremendously. Like I mentioned, it won an award for Best of British Columbia. What's it like as a filmmaker in British Columbia? If you Is it a region that you think you can sell on filmmaking? Is it something that somebody, if say, wants to start to have make an indie film, like British Columbia is a place to do it? What's it like as an independent filmmaker there?
I don't really know anything else aside from that. I've only ever worked in BC. I think there's such a good, it's a really small city and it's a small industry in terms of indie film. So I think it's a
That's
really
awesome.
good place to start because there's such a network of creatives who want to just make films. And I think that's the best thing I've found is just a lot of eager, talented people that just want to get on set and make things. I think the challenge is funding is he is often not given as much funding as the East Coast. And we see that in the numbers in terms of what projects receive what funding from
Really?
national funding systems. So that's a little disappointing in terms of when you level up and you want film money for your feature film, you're going to come from. So I find that a little trickier. But I think BC, it's a beautiful place to film. It's so diverse in terms of landscape and stories, and the community is amazing.
Love it. So, as much as you talk about what's next for you? If somebody watches your two documentaries and thinks, "Man, I want some more Jenny Lee
Mhm.
Gilmore work," what can you tell them?
I just finished a short film, a narrative short film that's hopefully going to
Yay!
start doing. It's called With Time, and it's very different. It's like a very slow drama about these 3 women over the span of one night. And then I'm also working on my first feature film, which is inspired by my narcolepsy. So it's called Dormant, and it's about a girl that's having these very vivid nightmares. And it's connected to this murder mystery, really. So it's very like dark academia. So that's what's next for me, hopefully, if I get the funding. So we're just waiting to see if we got it. So that's my next big project. And also a continuation of Little Miss Sleepy. I want to do a feature doc on sleep in general and visit other people with narcolepsy and see what the latest kind of scientific research is, because there's been a lot of breakthroughs and it's fascinating. So I really hope I can do that as a feature doc.
You would think we would have more docs on sleep, right? Because it's like what, 1/3 of your life is sleeping, and yet
Mhm.
maybe people just don't want to talk about it. Who knows? But maybe you can lead the way. So I think it's also fantastic that you're going both documentary and narrative. When you meet with people, do you find sometimes they try to be like, "Oh, you're a documentary filmmaker," and you're like, "No, I have wide range of interest." Do you feel like sometimes people pigeonhole you in one direction simply from your work?
Yeah, I haven't really felt pigeonholed, but I'm definitely starting to feel like I don't want to be just known documentaries. Those have been the films I've made, but for me, it's like a good story is a good story, and usually a good filmmaker can tackle both. So I feel like I'm so early in my career, I haven't been pigeonholed yet, maybe in the
Good.
future, but I'm trying to do both to make it work. Yeah.
That's awesome, Jenny. Indie Film Podcast, you clearly have a crew of people that you love, network that you love. Is there an indie film or filmmaker that you tell your friends, oh, I wish more people knew about this person? Do you have a favorite film that you go back to and that you are like, gosh, I wish more people knew about this particular film or filmmaker?
Oh, that's a good question. I've really been loving I just watched My Old Ass, which is by Megan Park, and
Love
she's
it.
Canadian.
Oh,
Yeah, and her first that's her second feature, but her first feature as well, The Fallout, is another beautiful film, but I think My Old Ass is so Canadian, which is what I love about it, like, they didn't edit out any of the Canadianness in it, and it's simple, but so beautiful and poignant and just the dialogue. So she's someone that I'm really excited to see, like, her 3rd film and where she continues to go in the indie space.
love it. So the film is Little Miss Sleepy. You said that it's available now for people if they want to watch it.
Yes, it's on CBC Gem in Canada and then on the
Okay.
Nature of Things YouTube globally.
Awesome. I'll link that in the show notes.
Mm.
Jenny Lee-Gilmore, thanks for joining me today on the podcast. This has been amazing. I'm cheering for your continued success.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.